there was an article in Rolling Stone magazine about Jimmy Gilmore's album, After a While, and it was from a regional record series. And at the bottom, they had 2 other records you might like from this region. One of them was Butch Hancock's Own and Own, and the other was Terry Allen's Lubbock on Everything. And at that moment, that was the first time I had ever heard that there was an album named Lubbock on Everything. And I'm sitting there on my couch in Austin, Texas, looking at Rolling Stone magazine, seeing that they have given this album a 5-star rating. And I had never heard of it. And it really made me angry.
Thought of the song being sung by somebody who's just kind of a longing song. Might go down, maybe, might, maybe. Kind of from the beginning, there was, on Friday nights, they had all black dances. And great touring bands came through, T-Bone Walker, B.B. King. And from the time I was a little kid, could hardly walk, I served setups out at those dances because Lubbock was dry. So I would, people brought their own bottle, kept them under the table, and this little boy gave them ice and lemons and limes and Cokes.
Just got them 4 lanes of hard Amarillo highway.
My life changed so drastically after my father died, just going in a lot of really directions I didn't want to go in. And so I kind of used Lubbock, I think, as a scapegoat to get, like I think a lot of young kids do, just to propel me out of there as quick as I could get. And I never really knew Lubbock until I went back to record, actually, Lubbock on Everything. We went back a lot, but I would always bitch about going back there and would end up on the loop, just going round and round and round, trying to figure out if I should ever get off or just keep going around.
That you love, for sure. And this is real life.
It's a response. It's kind of an honest response. And it's funny too, because those songs were not, they were written at different times and different places and whatever. And I think it's like any record, when you put it together, you have to think of it as one thing. And there were so many kind of, my life had gone so many different places since I'd left there, like to art school, the 60s, all of the changes that were going on in the world, changes that were going on personally, the war, all of that stuff. It fed into it, and I think that was the reason, the title, just because it became Lubbock on Everything.
You spend a goddamn day.
It was an incredible time because, like I say, fate just steps in such a great, glorious way.
It was kind of like those fluky things. I got a grant, an NEA grant, just on a kind of fluke, and only a day or two later, Paul Milosevic said, "You got to come to Lubbock now."
I just was trying to really encourage him to do it in Lubbock. I thought Caldwell would give him a good deal on the price, and he had all these amazing musicians available. I mean, he ended up using the whole Monterey High School band.
No, I did not. I didn't even know of Terry Allen at all until Paul Milosevic called me at my home and kind of briefed me on Terry and said he was wanting to do his second record. The first Terry Allen record was called Juarez, and it was recorded in the Bay Area, San Francisco. And Paul said that Terry was wanting to do another record, and kind of, gave me his history, said he was a Monterey High School guy and went to Tech for a while. And I said, heck yeah, man, it sounds fun.
And that night with Paul, we had gone to see Ely out at Coldwater. And that was the first time I ever met Joe, and so the first time I met Lloyd and Jesse and all these people that were in the band at that time. And Lloyd said, well, I hear you coming in tomorrow, and play your songs.
He came in, I'll never forget, he was wearing snakeskin boots and carrying a leather, really bold, leather-bound book.
All of us were really hungover.
And he had all his songs in there. He was extremely organized. I was impressed by how organized he was. And he sat back in the studio on the piano and banged out all those songs.
And sat down at the piano and I played the whole album for him.
He had the door open at Caldwell's. He had the volume up pretty high, and Terry came on, and there was a bunch of real proper people out in the hall there at Caldwell's, and Terry started singing, and there were some cuss words, and so Lloyd got up and closed the door and turned the sound up.
I was just floored. I was blown away by every song. Because, I'd never heard anyone do what he was doing. Just, unbridled, uncensored force of nature on that piano. And his lyrics just floored me.
Oh, it was great. It was great. And of course, that record just turned out to be wonderful. And what a good summer.
He's also had 10 albums. I guess the most famous was Lubbock on Everything. The Rolling Stone magazine proclaimed Lubbock on Everything album one of the most important albums of the 1970s. And that's not a bad deal for a guy from Lubbock, Texas.
If Terry Allen's getting more attention locally in Lubbock now, I think that's the greatest thing, because he's one of the most intelligent, creative, interesting artists I've ever met. He has such a great view on things, and to me, a lot of this, whatever it is that's Lubbock music or art, I think Terry Allen's about the ultimate example of that.
I see Terry Allen as kind of Lubbock's intellectual musician, because he covers it all. He does art, he writes great songs. How do you describe the indescribable?
I remember toward the end of the session, Lloyd was trying to get Terry to come in during a song on a 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back on the 1. And he kept trying and Terry just couldn't get it. And Lloyd said, Terry, just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back on 1. And Terry looked at Lloyd and said, Lloyd, it's music, not algebra. And I think at that time, that's when I began to realize that he was right.
The highway at the Paradise Motel Lounge on a Saturday night, so when things weren't right between him and his wife in town.
The space is something that is really unique, I think, to that part of the country. And it's unique to the music. That music, the space that's in West Texas music is the same kind of space that you travel through in that, And it's different than guys in East Texas who have trees in front of them all the time, Their sense of space and the way they write is different. The way they speak is different. Now, for me, I've never been able to define where a song comes from or how a song comes. It's always a mystery to me.
Alan Crossland, who has Route 1 Acuff Studios out in Acuff, began working at Don Caldwell Studios sometime after the Terry Allen session. And he talked to me about doing a library from Caldwell Studios. And he said it was just so obvious to him that everything before Lubbock on Everything was different music. Almost everything after the Lubbock album changed. And so if nothing else, the influence of Terry Allen changed everyone's attitude about songwriting, about performing, and about just the passion for music itself.
Like a sorrow through a song. Then carried the tune to the motel room and they played it